Je donne maintenant la parole à la représentante du Liban.
Thank you, Madam President. At the outset, I wish to congratulate you and your team for the able leadership of the work of the Council during this month of March. I would also like to thank the esteemed briefers, Under Secretary General Mr. Vladimir Voronkov, Financial Action Task Force President Mr. Marshall Belencia, and expert Ms. Mercy Beaucoup for their valuable inputs. I would like also to congratulate France and all the co-sponsors on the adoption of the resolution today. Madam President, our world today continues to face grave peace and security challenges. Yet, terrorism has probably become the defining security challenge of our time. Lebanon reiterates its firm condemnation of terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. Recent tragic, deplorable terrorist acts, lastly in New Zealand, have testified to our collective belief that terrorism is not to be associated with any particular religion, nationality, or ethnicity. It is a global disease afflicting mankind, threatening the core values of humanity, and thus requires a global remedy. The United Nations Global Counterterrorism Strategy is a policy tool of paramount importance that guides the global battle against terrorism. In its 4 pillars, it reflects the international conviction that an effective response to this threat needs to be inclusive and comprehensive. One key battlefield is countering the financing of terrorism. Madam President, my country has been on the forefront of the fight against terrorism. Our armed forces succeeded in defeating Daesh, al-Nusra, and other al-Qaeda-affiliated groups militarily, and in disrupting hundreds of terrorist cells. We joined the global coalition to combat and eradicate Daesh on its inception, and were active members of the several of its working groups. In the process, Lebanon has put combating the financing of terrorism at the core of its counterterrorism efforts. We have taken concrete actions on all fronts, including the legislative front. Lebanon co-chaired the Counterterrorism Financing Working Group of the Anti-Daesh Global Coalition. In that capacity, Lebanon played a crucial role in devising measures to disrupt the financing networks of this notorious terrorist group. On October 27, 2016, the Lebanese parliament adopted Law Number 77, which amended Article 316 of the Penal Code to cover the financing of activities mentioned in United Nations Security Resolution Number 2178 in relation to foreign terrorist fighters. Upon efforts and demand of the Prime Minister, we have put into effect 2 targeted financial sanctions mechanisms based on the new anti-money laundering counter-financing of terrorism law with respect to both UNSC resolutions 1267 of 1989 and 1373 2001 and successor resolutions. The mechanisms were adopted by the Lebanese National Committee on Suppressing Terrorism Financing. The Internal Security Forces now retain and issues the national list of designated names on its website. I'm also glad to announce that Lebanon has acceded to the United Nations International Convention for the Suppression of the Financing of Terrorism of 1999. The Special Investigation Commission of the Lebanese Central Bank, which is our national financial investigation unit, has been prioritizing terrorism financing cases. It's noteworthy that there has been a considerable rise in the number of terrorism financing convictions issued by the relevant courts in Lebanon. In terms of capacity building and awareness raising, the Special Investigation Commission has been steadily conducting joint training on terrorism financing with the General Prosecutor's Office and other relevant stakeholders. In parallel, the Lebanese National Committee on Suppressing Terrorism Financing continues to meet on a regular basis to discuss latest terrorism financing threats and recommend mitigating measures. This committee comprises representatives from relevant judicial, law enforcement, and financial agencies in Lebanon. Madam President, terrorism financing is a transboundary collective threat, and as the Secretary General has rightly said, it's a transnational threat that cannot be defeated by a single government or organization. That's why our response should be collective and global. The importance of multilateral resource and forging strong partnerships on the international and regional levels cannot be overemphasized. Significant work has been done in this regard by relevant intergovernmental agencies such as the Financial Action Task Force, Interpol, and Europol, to name a few. Their efforts should be commended and supported. However, we should never forget that a comprehensive and sustainable action against the threat of terrorism should seek to address its root causes. We should work hard towards fostering economic development and social inclusion and countering oppression and foreign occupation. Recent cases have shown that failed states have constantly provided fertile soil for terrorism. Bolstering democratic governance and the rule of law is one effective preventive means to guarantee a world free of terrorism and violent extremism conducive to it. I thank you.
Je remercie la représentante du Liban de sa déclaration et